is awesome to get Dr. Farah, Dr. Fahmi Farah on, and she is an expert on this. She's a cardiologist, among many other things. Dr. Farah, you're right here in DFW. Thank you for joining us on this horrible story about the UPS worker dying. Can I ask you a question about this first?
Sure, of course.
Want to make sure you're there and everything. Okay, so here's what I got for you. He told the supervisor he passed out at a indoor, air-conditioned place when he was delivering, and the supervisor showed up, and by the time he showed up, the man was cognizant and able to respond and everything. So we don't know if he was good, but it seems like he was good because he was asked repeatedly from the supervisor when he got there, please, want to take you to the hospital, and he refused several times. So he granted the supervisor to take him home, drove him home, and then he was off. That was on a Wednesday. He was off. It was 101 degrees. It was 108 heat index. He drove him home. The man was alive and well and off Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I mean, I don't know how well, but his family chose to take him into the hospital on Sunday. That's when he went to the hospital and he passed away. That's 4 days. Can you even die from heat stroke? Because we don't know what it is, as you know, until the autopsy. Can you even die from heat stroke 4 days later?
It wouldn't necessarily be heat stroke directly, but it could be indirect effects of the heat stroke, yes. And I agree with you that it's hard to tell what it exactly was that caused him to even collapse to begin with. We don't know that it was heat stroke for a fact. So it's hard to tell without knowing further details.
If you get there and you hear he passed out, collapsed there, the people there at the business took care of him. He's cognizant. I don't know how long it takes to get there, but he's not a squad car. Maybe 30 minutes, we'll just say. And if he's fine, people are going nuts that he should have forced the guy to go to the hospital, or called 911 on him. But I mean, if somebody's cognizant like that and they seem okay, 30 minutes, roughly, we're just guesstimating here, 30 minutes after the pass out and such, is it still, in your opinion, mandatory to immediately get them checked out no matter what?
I would say so, yes. I think the safe thing to do is still to call EMS and go to the hospital, go to the emergency department and get a proper checkup. Right.
Okay, what else do you want to tell us about this? Because, he's delivering UPS packages, and it's 108 heat index. And they apparently are told time and time again about preparing for this, water and coached ad infinitum. We've got a UPS worker on hold who's going to jump back in with us here in a minute. But he's like, they drill this through us all the time. They're texting us. It's ridiculous. So he says there's no excuse for this. The worker should have been driving, taking care of himself in this, being prepared. I don't know about that. But can you really force somebody to go to the hospital if you can't tell symptoms are happening? And, I don't know. It's just...
And, obviously every adult has the right to make their own decision. But, yes, in this kind of heat, with excessive heat exposure, is heat stroke a likelihood? Absolutely, it is. It can be. And, usually with heat stroke, people get very acutely ill, and they can even pass out. So whether he had a milder version of that and sustained some end organ damage, like internal damage, one of the things that happens with heat stroke is organ failure, and one of them could be kidney failure, for example. People can even have heart attacks. So it's really hard to tell, what
right.
exactly happened that particular day. Could it have been as a result of the high heat? Yes, it could have. And maybe he sustained some kind of damage. And because he did not seek care in a timely manner, it was just simply too late. But, at this point, a lot of this is speculation because
right.
without knowing further details, it's hard to know.
Okay. It's possible to appear just fine, though, for 4 days and then pass away from it. Is that, we're all speculating here, but is that possible to...
I wouldn't say that he would be just fine for the next 4 days. It's hard to know exactly what happened, but usually if people sustain a heat stroke and they have ongoing problems with it that causes death at the end of it, they wouldn't be just fine. I'm sure they would be having some kind of, they may have been coherent. They may have been be able to speak and such, but I doubt that person would be 100% back to normal and then suddenly die 4 days later.
That's part of the that's part of the last piece, Dr. Fahmi, is I'm kind of sitting here going, well, the family may have been like trying to get him to go, and he, it may have been not until he had serious issues 4 days later. And that's where it's like, and I'm not asking you to ascribe blame, but it's also like to blame the employer exclusively if he refused and his family didn't take him for 4 days. It's kind of like, they may have, maybe they should have forced him to go over the 4-day period if he wasn't getting better. I'm just,
I agree with that part. Yes. And, it's something even as simple as dehydration, for example, if it reaches, if he has significant dehydration with electrolyte abnormalities, even something as simple as that could become deadly because of the electrolyte abnormalities. Yeah, for our listeners, I just want to make it very clear that do not ignore these signs and symptoms because you simply don't know what's happening. So it's always better to just get yourself checked out.
Last thing is take a break every 45 minutes for 15 minutes and drink lots of fluids and then have a dose of electrolytes a day, and that should take care of it roughly, right? I mean, is that about right for a reasonable prescription?
Yeah, hydration is key, avoiding prolonged exposure, making sure your electrolytes are okay.
Dr. Fahmi Farah, thank you so much tonight. We appreciate you. We'll look forward to having you on again.
Sure. Thanks for having me.
There she goes. Cardiologist. Check her out, y'all.